No.
Have you taught it before?
I've taught it.
It's fine.
I taught it last year, the year before,
All right.
maybe the year before that. This time they called up and said, "Would you teach us 3 times?" And I said, "No." They were like, "Would you teach us twice?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll teach you twice." But I know some people said they were going to come back. It's the exact same class, just so you know. And this is singing for harp players, so if you're not wanting the singing for harp players class, then you're talking to the wrong blind guy, right? So, yeah.
The quick no and the slow yes.
Yes.
Tell you what, for a blind guy, you sure do know how to dress, man. You are a sharp dresser.
That's
dude.
because I can't see any color at all. And so, my sister helps me pick things out. And I think this is the only shirt I have that isn't black or red. I know it's black, but it's black and blue because my sister told me.
Well, I tell you, when you post, when you go to events and stuff and you post a photo, I'm always like, man, this dude knows how to dress.
I wear custom suits, you know. It's always interesting when, like on the Modern Blues Harmonica Forum on Facebook, what are you wearing on stage? And you're like, oh, whatever I have on that day. And I'm thinking, you know, Jason Ritchie gave a seminar where he said, you don't have to put a suit on. He said, but anybody looking at you in the bar should know that you're in the band.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, not to slam anybody else, but to me, that is a way I show my respect for the audience.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing a video of Eric Clapton, and he's on stage with B.B. King and Muddy Waters and like all these great blues artists, right? And they are all dressed like I'm wearing a custom suit. They are all wearing custom suits.
Right.
And Eric Clapton is up there in jeans and like a plaid shirt. I could still see more back then. And he looked like someone who just wandered out on stage and didn't belong.
There was we once watched a video of him, and I think he was playing with Otis Rush.
Yeah.
And one of my friends said he looks like a math teacher. You know, he's
Yeah.
wearing a sweater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he belongs up there.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he can play the guitar pretty good. So.
Some people say, yeah, no, you can't wear expensive stuff on stage, you know, playing the blues.
Yeah.
But I mean, T-Bone Walker, he had the most expensive suits. Little Walter, you know, all these guys.
A guy in my band, he said years ago, he went down to the South Side to a black blues club and talked his way in, and he goes, I was wearing a tracksuit, basically. And he said, I walked into the club, he goes, all the women are wearing dresses, all the men are wearing suits and ties.
I was in Chicago for the blues festival. You see the way I dress. So, you know, oh, you don't. I'm sorry.
Really.
Kind of.
You guys do.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So, but anyway, I'm like 40s style style dresser, but I always got compliments of black people.
Yeah.
They're like, hey man, that's so
They
cool.
notice.
Yeah, they absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I get people coming up to me, you know, black guys coming up to me and like, wow, you know how to dress, you look good.
It puts makes the world look nicer.
You get
Yeah.
treated better.
And for me, you know, and Joe Falisco told me that he used to get called to judge blues band competitions. And he said if there were 2 bands that played about the same and one was dressed up, the one that was dressed up won. He said people listen with their eyes.
I want a hat like yours.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have to wear a hat because of my eye disease. Let's start the class because I talked about that.
You know, I have to wear a hat because I don't belong in this plant.
So,
I'm too fair.
all right, so before we start the class, I want to talk about my vision and what I can see and what I can't see, all right? So I have a disease, it's called fundus flavomaculatus, right? There'll be a test afterwards, I'll ask about this. And I was talking about, my brother called me up one day and he goes, he's passed now, but he called me up one day and he goes, I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of your eye disease, and my doctor wanted to know. And I said, Dan, you can't remember fundus flavomaculatus, what is wrong with you? I literally wrote it down on a piece of paper and kept it in my wallet for 2 years before I could remember what the name of the disease was. And I've never had a primary care physician who's even heard of it. So it's very, very rare. It's a genetic disorder. It kicks in. If you know what Stargardt's disease is, that's pretty rare too, but more people know about Stargardt's disease. Stargardt's disease is like the kid's version of this. So in my case, this version of it, around the age of 40, you start developing blind spots in your retinas. And the reason that happens is because there's a mechanism in your retinal cells that takes out the trash. And if you eat more vitamin A, it kicks that into high gear. The genetic disorder means that mechanism does not work in my eyes. And if I eat a lot of vitamin A, then my retinal cells die faster. My body, that part of my body, treats vitamin A like poison.
Oh, wow.
So I had an argument with a vegetarian. Anybody can be a vegetarian. I was like, I have a disease. Okay, yeah, like that would be a really poor choice for me. And anytime I talk about vegetables or vitamin A with doctors, I'm like, no, no. So so it takes out my central vision. So at this point, that started at 40. I'm 70 now, right? So I went to school for the blind in 2017, which was, probably should have gone a little earlier than that, but I wasn't, my doctor was very strict about what he decided was legally blind and not, and other doctors would have let me go earlier, let me go to school earlier and stuff, but he didn't. And I actually ended up changing doctors. That was one of the reasons. So, so I have some peripheral vision. I don't see color at all. I can see, I talked to some of you earlier, I can tell if you're wearing a hat most of the time, or sometimes if you have glasses on, but it depends on what kind of glasses you have. If they're those really minimal, like wire frames and glass, I might not be able to tell that at all. I can see light or dark, and I can see shapes. But if you know color theory, I see value but not hue. So I see light and dark, but I can't see any color at all. So during the class, if you raise your hand, I might be able to tell that's happening, but there's a really good chance that I'm not going to know that that's happening. If you shake or nod your head, I can't really tell the difference between those two movements. So I can see that you're moving your head probably. I can tell you're pointing at something. I can tell your arm's moving in a pointing way, but I can't really figure out where you're pointing to. I don't have any depth perception, so which is weird because they have to tell you that, because you still have the perception of depth, which is different. And the perception of depth is like, if you know anything about animation, then they always talk about how, like if I move here, this chair seems to be moving at one speed, everything behind it seems to be moving more slowly, right? So the way objects move in relation to each other tells me that I'm in a three-dimensional world. But as far as actually knowing how far away that chair is, until I touch it, I don't know where it is. That can be frustrating sometimes because you think you know where it is, your brain wants to tell you. And I can't see color, but most of my life I did. So when I walk outside, I see green grass, even if it's brown. I see blue sky. Like my brain paints these things in. So yeah, there's a thing called Charles Bonnet syndrome, which I have sometimes too, which is where your brain fills in information that's not there. You hallucinate. You think you see things because your brain takes the information that you do have and it doesn't like a vacuum. And people always wonder, when I describe this, people usually think I've got a big black spot in the middle. But I don't. I have nothing. And it's really hard to describe. But if you go online and you look for blind spot test, everybody has blind spots in their eyes. And basically that's where your retina plugs into your brain, right? So that blind spot, it's two dots on a page. You close one eye and then you move back and forth, and the dot on the outside will disappear. And if you do that and pay attention to it, you'll see it's not light, it's not dark. You just can't see that dot. It's just not there. So in my central vision, if I look directly at gray here, like I don't see anything here, but it's not, I guess you might describe it as gray, but it's not really gray either. It's really hard to describe.
I do have a beard, gray beard.
Oh, do you?
I do.
No, yeah, see, I can't tell that. If it's light, then if it were a dark beard, I'd be able to see it in contrast against his face, because I can see high contrast things are more easily.
Not as lush as yours.
Oh. So, my phone talks to me through this Bluetooth earpiece, but I want to turn that off for a second. It's easier for me to hear with the Bluetooth earpiece in during the class, right? So, it talks to me, right? If I open it up, and I was using Seeing AI to read something, right? So do you have text on that? Oh, what here?
Here I have text that I wrote.
Listen.
See if you can read my handwriting.
No, it can't read handwriting, but I have another program that does it.
Okay.
So, all right, let me get rid of that.
I just want you to know that.
That's music because I was vocalizing so I could teach this class. These are my notes, but I'm not going to show that first. Double tap to open. So it tells me what the app is, and it tells me how to open it.
Awesome.
Yeah. The very first iteration of the iPhone was designed to do that. Okay? Also, since my eyes are light sensitive, if it's nighttime and I want to take my sunglasses off and the room's completely dark, the phone's going to be really painful, unless screen curtain on. So it's still on, it's still running. I can still operate the phone. I don't really need the screen to operate the phone.
Sure.
That's all right. I'm holding it against you. All right.
Yeah.
So, but here, I mean, if I don't want people to shoulder surf when I'm in public, I'll turn that on, or late at night. There are times when I use that. But in a situation like this, it's easier for me to actually see what I can see on the phone. Now, in this case, I've got app switcher, notes, and that's where I have the syllabus for the class, right? So what's going to happen is every time my phone turns off, or every once in a while it just decides it wants to change things, and I use what's called the rotor. So I take 2 fingers and I twist them like I'm twisting a dial.
Oh, okay.
Words. It's supposed to say lines. Don't embarrass me in front of the sighted people. Lines, there it is. Now, I can listen to the whole syllabus, right? So there are times when I have to ask your indulgence for me to like figure out where I am, because it takes a little longer than someone who's sighted who can just scan down a page. I'm going to turn this back on so I can use that. But again, the things, you're not going to remember this because no one ever does. You're having someone, having me look at this and thinking that I'm looking at him, right, is so ingrained in you that it's not going to occur to you that in order to see him, I'm looking at him now, right? You're going to think that I'm looking at whatever's pointed in front of me.
Right, it's that side
Yeah.
of peripheral vision, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing
Which could
more
be.
seems like
Are there women in here right now?
Yeah.
Because I have been so embarrassed because I've been looking at someone's shoulder. And I
Uh,
actually had a woman ask me why I was looking at her breast one day. And I'm kind of conservative with that stuff, and so it was super embarrassing. She thought it was hysterical. I'm sure I turned bright red. I could be turning red now. Who knows? All right. So,
Aw.
introduction. Oh, okay. So that's what I see and what I can't see. So if I ask you a question, I'll keep reminding you of this. You have to speak up, and if you want to ask a question, just interrupt me. Don't feel like you're being rude unless you are being rude, and then don't be rude, right? But say, excuse me, and I'll take your question. Don't be afraid to ask anything at any time, right? All right. So that's my vision. The next thing I go cover is, why do I teach this class? Why the hell should you listen to me, right? I'm just some dweeb up here. So I had my first performance in a children's choir in 1965. So I've been on stage for 16 years. Yeah, right? Better with math than I. So yeah, I've worked, my background is classical music, but I was into everything. I was in the barbershop group, Speps was what it was called that, but it's called something else now. And I basically anything I could get into, I got into. I went through periods of my life where, like in high school, where I discovered swing music, and all I listened to for months and months and months was swing music, right? And so I listened to a lot of different styles of music. So I'm facile with a lot of different styles. I've always been a singer. My parents told me a story about when I was 4 years old and a friend of theirs came over, and I sang "I Like Mountain Music" with a cigar box banjo my dad had made for me, which was literally rubber bands on a cigar box with a stick, right? There's no way to tune that. But I sang "I Like Mountain Music," and their friend turned to him when I was done, 4 years old, was like, he sang that whole thing in tune, right? So I was that kid. I was just a singer. And my performance includes 10 years as a paid chorister at St. James Cathedral as a classical vocalist, right? I was also on Broadway. I was off Broadway. I did 3 shows at the Kennedy Center. 2 of them were at the Opera House. Presidents came to see those shows. I've sung Church and Presidents, So I've got a really long performance history, but that doesn't really say I can teach, right? Because how many people can play the harmonica like a mother, but then if you ask them why they did anything or how they did
Can't
anything,
explain it.
yeah, they can't explain anything, right? So I started studying with teachers in 1973. And I studied with some really mediocre to bad teachers for a long time until around 1991, I think it was, and I found this guy, Jack Waddell. Jack Waddell passed January 1st of this year. It was a hard loss because he's been a friend and a mentor to me for the last few decades. And Jack was an opera singer in Germany in the 70s, because back then, if you were black, you couldn't sing an opera in the United States. They wouldn't hire you, right? I mean, it was a big deal back in the 70s. So he actually had a really nice career and did shows with, he did the first production of Hair with Donna Summer in Munich,
Wow.
right? And it was the first time that anybody had done a Broadway show in the native language of the country it was being, They always did it in English because it was, purist, right? This was the first time. And so Jack was in that production. And in fact, he told me the story about how they called him up. They were like, we do hair. And he was like, opera. And then he was like, how much money? Yeah. Yes, I will do that. So then he started doing musicals too, because they just paid a lot more than the opera did.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, Jack was the first teacher. I had teachers that said things like, think of the color yellow, think of singing through a tube, or they do these weird exercises where you lie on the floor or get in different positions and stuff like that. None of that ever made any sense to me. Jack was the first teacher I had that said, here's how you stand. These are the muscles you're using. This is the acoustic chamber you need to create to get a good tone, right? And we'll get into that a little more, but he was the first one that had practical, this is why you do this. This is what you do, this is why you do it. He said singing is physical, right? And so the stronger you are, the bigger voice you can have. It used to be that opera singers were overweight, like the stereotype, right? Is the big fat opera singer, with the horns on her helmet, belting out, one of the Valkyries, belting out Wagner, right? That's because if you're really active and you have that extra weight, it builds muscle, right? Now, opera singers know more about how tone is produced and things. And so now they work out. They work out and they get stronger. He actually told me a story. I usually don't tell this. But he told me a story. He was doing an opera. And this baritone was talking to the soprano. You're such a little woman, and you got such a big voice. And she looked at one of the guys in the chorus, and Jack was a bodybuilder. He goes, the guy weighed about 200 pounds. And she goes, sit down in the chair. And she walks around behind the chair, and she goes, and she picks up, she goes, that's how. Yeah, because she was strong. I mean, she was really, really strong. That's why she had a big voice. So that makes a big difference. But Jack was the first one that said, this is how you do it. This is why. So we're not going to sing until the very end of the class, but we're going to get into the why of everything in a way that I hope you enjoy, because I think it's really cool. All right, hold on. Let me see where I am. All right, so that's why I'm qualified to teach. I studied with a really good teacher. The other thing about Jack is that last year, at the end of his life, he was flown to New York by the American Theater Wing that does the Tony Awards. You may have heard of the Tony Awards, right?
Sure.
Yeah, to be recognized as one of the unsung heroes of Broadway, because his students win Tonys. His students include Brian Stokes Mitchell. You have to be a pretty big Broadway queen to know this stuff, right? And I'm gay, so I can say that. Okay, so, but Brian Stokes Mitchell, Brandon Victor Dixon. If you saw the Jesus Christ Superstar they did a couple of years ago live on TV, he was playing Judas in that, and he ran away with the reviews because John Legend sang it like a pop star, right?
Yeah.
And then Brandon Victor Dixon's a real thing. He went out there like an actor and like kicked the crap out of that role. And he's got an amazing voice. I bow down to him, right? And Jessica Voss, a couple of years ago, sold out Carnegie Hall with her solo show and played the Green Witch, which is one of the hardest vocal roles on Broadway. You got to sing all that stuff while you're flying suspended in the air.
And with makeup.
And with that, oh God, I had a white face in different shows. That kind of full face where you have to paint yourself a different color, it's a pain in the ass, and you never get it all off. Like, yeah, my entire acting career, every time I was working, you got some eyeliner on or something that you can't get rid of. So, but I wasn't thrilled with the makeup part of the job. All right, so that's why I'm qualified to teach the class, because I studied with someone who really knew what they were doing and knew how to teach and taught stars, right? Taught people who were really, really good, recognized in the business. Okay. Now, we're going to get into some myths about singing. These are some of my pet peeves about what people think about singing. And the first one is, you can either sing or you can't, right? How many people have heard that? Say yes.
Yes.
Everybody's heard that, right? So, singing is like any other instrument. You can say you can either play the trombone or you can't. I used to play the trombone. And you can always get better, right? I mean, I'm sure you have had experiences where you've seen people. There's a woman who used to come to this all the time, and when she was very young, could not carry a tune. Really nice kid, her dad's great, could not carry a tune. Now, she's much, much, much better. She learned a lot. So it's like any other instrument. If you work at it, you can get better. Anybody can learn how to sing to a certain extent. There is talent that comes into it. A lot of people play the harmonica, but they're not Joe Falisco or Howard Levy, right? And they're not going to be. But that doesn't mean they can't enjoy playing the harmonica, or they can't make an audience enjoy what they're doing. I mean, what we learned from Tom Waits and Randy Newman, is that it's not about your voice, right? Because if it were,
Randy Newman, yeah.
yeah, neither of those guys would have careers.
Well, he's
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of,
Right?
yeah, there are plenty of people. Jimmy Durante, if you're old enough to know who he was, he didn't have a voice at all, but people loved to hear him sing songs. I mean, if you ever watched video of him, he was just phenomenal, right?
And you got guys like Rob Halford, you know.
Yeah. Hold on. It's about singing. You can't keep. Oh, how many people here already sing and play the harmonica? Say something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I've been asked not to sing,
That happens.
but I sing anyway.
All right.
There you go.
How many people who sing think they have favorite keys to sing in? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I hate to, as they say in The Matrix, I hate to give bad news to good people, but that is just crap.
Yeah.
And that is not a thing. And I'm going to explain that right now. So, the key and the range in the song are two different things, right? So, the example that I use all the time is, the key does not...
Excuse me, just so I understand. So what you're saying is that, so if it's a C, you don't necessarily have to sing in a C.
If it's the key of C, this is what I'm explaining now. That's a good question. If it's the key of C, all right, so here's the key of C on the piano, right? All right, that's a C major chord. Let me just check that. Oh yeah, I
Yeah, it
can
is.
actually do it this way. Yeah, that's a C. So that's a C major chord, okay? The melody can start here, the melody can start here, the melody can start here, it can start here, right? It can start anywhere.
Anywhere.
I'll have an example, right? Here's the key of A. So, right? Crossroads Blues, tenor song. I went down to the crossroads, got down on my knees, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. I went down to the crossroads, got down on my knees. That's a tenor song. Here's 6 Days on the Road. I'm pulling out of Pittsburgh, rolling down that eastern seaboard. That's a low A, 2 octaves down from what I just sang. That's a baritone song. They are both in the key of A. One's for a baritone, one's for a tenor.
That's impressive.
Same key, okay? I have a wide range. I studied for a long time, and I'm gifted, right? I told you, I started singing at a really young age in tune. So, if you believe in God, God was really nice to me when it came to music. He stuck me in a family where they didn't know what to do with me because they were all military.
Yeah, right.
And that too.
In there.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents did not know what to make of me.
So it's not like dropping the key and going to karaoke and changing the key and say, I want to do it in this key, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's an interesting point too, because you know what jazz standards are, the American Songbook
Sure.
jazz standards, right? If you're an instrumentalist and you're going to play an instrumental of a jazz standard, there are standard keys for all those songs.
Right.
If you're doing Stardust, you're going to do it in C. Some people think D is the standard key, but I'm pretty sure Hoagie Carmichael, I don't know that much about history, but wrote it in C, right? And I sing it in C. So if you walk up to an instrumentalist and say, let's do Stardust in E flat, they're not going to be happy.
Yeah, they're not going to.
They are not going to be happy. If you're a vocalist, I want to do Stardust in E flat, all the instrumentalists have to bow down to you because you've got your range. You
That's-
have to fit the melody into your range.
But that's the great thing
Singer's
about playing
always
cross
right.
harp, though. You know, but when you know where the key is, I mean, you can play the cross key in it. But yeah, you're right. You can't change. You're not going to want to change the. You know.
You're still playing in that key,
That
even
key.
though you're playing a cross harp. I mean, you're playing a C harp, but you're playing it in G.
That's true. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
that's
so
true.
you're
That's
still
it.
playing in G. You're still playing in that key. So
First,
thinking,
possession, second, or third,
so
right.
thinking that you have your favorite key is your favorite key for that song. But that doesn't mean that you're going to sing Crossroads in E if you like singing, another song in E.
Okay.
I've done that though. I've done it.
Yeah, how did it work out?
Not very well.
Yeah, so that's the problem. So knowing that keeps you from running into problems, right? Knowing that you have to find the range, the key that fits the range of your voice. And every instrumentalist, no matter how good they are, especially if they're good, they know. When the vocalist comes in, the vocalist picks the key because you cannot sing out of your range, right? If
That's
you play an
true.
instrument, you have at least 3 octaves, at least. Harmonicas are 3-octave instruments. A flute is a 3-octave instrument, right? So, all right, let me get back to where I was because my phone turned off, so I have the characters, words, lines. All right. Oh, some people think going into your falsetto, your head voice is cheating. It's bullshit too. You know, Steve Tyler does everything in his head voice. Sting does everything in his head voice,
Ah.
right? Yeah, that's how they sing up
I
there.
wonder how
Steve
they got
Perry.
there.
They're all in their
Yeah.
head voice. They use a chest head mix. Roy Orbison was the king
Oh my goodness,
of
yeah.
going into his head voice. If you know who Sam Smith is,
What is the head voice?
head voice is what you would call falsetto,
Okay.
like where the Beach Boys went to,
Oh,
right?
okay.
All that
Can-
stuff.
Can you show?
Pardon?
Can you show?
Can
Show?
Example.
oh,
Sing.
an example.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is my chest voice. Actually,
Oh.
There we go.
Tiny Tim.
I got a feeling called the blues since my baby said goodbye. I find I don't know what I'll do. I'm going back and forth between my head voice and my chest voice.
That's cool.
Okay?
That's cool.
That's Hank Williams, right?
Yeah.
But if you really want to hear yodeling like that, if you want to hear someone kick the crap out of that, it's Charlie Pride.
Oh.
He was better at that than anybody else.
Leon Thomas.
Leon Thomas. I'm not really familiar with him.
Oh, well, you'll have to get there because you'll dig it.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Experimental jazz player, but
Yeah.
he used that a lot of that technique. He'll do real fast too for an effect.
yeah, Bobby McFerrin does that all the time. If you go to any of Bobby McFerrin's solo stuff,
Like-
where he go, even Don't Worry Be Happy, he starts a in his head voice, right?
Yeah, it's-
Classical musician would call it, classical vocalists would call it their head voice, so that's the term I use.
Okay.
But falsetto is basically the same thing. For a classical musician, you'd have your head voice, and then you'd have your falsetto as like after a second break above that, if you've got that, right? So, all right. The other thing I'm going to talk about is growling, right? Some people think if you're singing the blues, you should be growling the whole time. If you listen to early blues records, especially people early in their career, especially before amplification back in the 60s,
Oh, yeah.
late 50s and 60s, all of those, Robert Johnson, Jazz Gillum, like all these guys, B.B. King, early B.B. King, they're singing in a
James.
high, clear tenor voice. They're not growling at all. By the time they get to the end of the career of cigarettes and booze and singing at the same time,
Maybe, yeah.
then they're all growling, yeah. Or if you're Louis Armstrong or Howlin' Wolf, and that's the voice you've got. You don't have a clear voice.
Howlin' Wolf was notorious for that.
Yeah. Or Steven Tyler and Aerosmith.
And then Howling Wolf actually
was.
wanted
It's
to
like a
sound
song.
like Jimmy Rogers when he first started out singing Brakeman,
Yeah.
but he couldn't do the yodel, so he did something else.
But yeah, and he trashed his voice doing that, but then he turned that into his signature,
Uh-huh.
right? But, you can either sing or you can't. I usually get into this when I talk about, why you're taking lessons, but if you look at Adele, she's got a magnificent instrument that she doesn't know how to use. She's canceled every tour she's done. She had to cancel her Vegas residency after she started it because she's had three operations on her vocal cords.
Yeah.
Just
Wow.
recently?
Say it happened to Tyler too.
This is over years. No, not recently. This is over the past, how long she's been famous.
Yeah.
She made it big, and then she started having vocal problems.
So Steven Tyler, he quit touring just last year.
Yeah.
So
He's also like 80.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he had a great technique, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he did, because he took voice lessons.
Yeah.
And if you listen to Bobby Rush, if you know who Bobby Rush is.
Absolutely.
Or Jimmy Johnson. I saw Jimmy Johnson at 90 years old
Yeah.
at Blues Fest singing like a mother,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because he had technique, he studied, he knew what he was doing, right? He worked with people who knew what they were doing, he picked up on that. So you can study, or you could be like Louis Armstrong, who was a genius and worked with everybody and was like a sponge and picked all that stuff up, right? So,
I saw Booker T recently that was like that.
yeah.
And he even did an Elton John tune that he did it acoustic and slow. And, and I'm not an Elton John fan, but it blew me away so much. It was my favorite tune of the whole concert.
Yeah, Elton John trashed his voice, then took voice lessons. He sings better now than he did. He doesn't have the high range because he lost it because he ruined it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, he sounds better now than he did back in his 30s.
But how come that Steven Tyler ruined his voice eventually?
Steven Tyler, like Elton John, was doing a lot of drugs and alcohol and cigarettes and all of that stuff. You look at Billy Joel. Billy Joel lowers his keys as he ages. And a lot of artists do that. Elton John doesn't lower his keys. He just can't hit those high notes anymore.
So how do you damage your voice doing
You
that?
strain it, and you can permanently damage it.
Because
Miles Davis.
Mhm.
Miles Davis was screaming on stage. That's why he sounded the way he did after that.
It was actually after his doctors told him not to. He had something going on.
Yeah, he had something going on. His doctors told him not to.
But
And you're
it's
right
the-
about Liam, about Elton John. My wife worked for a record company, and part of her job was babysitting. And he claims there was 7 years he doesn't even remember.
Yeah,
But it's amazing that Steven Tyler still managed to do everything, and until recently. And,
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean-
then it gave in.
yeah. All right, let me get back to where my syllabus.
Yeah,
is.
I'm sorry.
No. These are all great questions. All right. So you take voice lessons to learn how to sing, right? But that's not all you get out of voice lessons. You learn how to warm up, and you learn how to maintain your voice. And your warming up is another way I show respect for the audience. Because how many of you gone to a show and the first time the vocalist sings, it sounds like crap, and about the fourth or fifth song in, you're like, oh no, that person actually has a really good voice.
Yeah.
They just didn't bother to take the time to warm up so they could do their job when they walked out on stage. All right, I sound very judgmental because it's one of my pet peeves, and I think that shows disrespect for the audience. You don't show up to work and then get dressed. I mean, you show up for work ready to do your job. So you sit down and you type, or whatever your job is. I was a writer, so that was my job for a long time, right? So it teaches you how to maintain your voice, and it also runs you through a range. It's like running your body through a range of motion. If you're singing a show or you're doing music, you're doing songs in set or whatever, that's not necessarily going to work your entire range every single time, right? And if you don't use it, you lose it. It's like anything else with you. You don't exercise, then you get weaker, right? You exercise, you get stronger. So it runs you through the entire range of your voice and helps you maintain what you have. My older brother Mike, asked me recently, because he heard some celebrity or something saying they couldn't hit the notes they used to hit. And he said, you're 70. Can you sing as high as you could? And I said, I can sing higher than I could in my 30s, because I didn't start studying
I've
the
heard
jack
that.
until after that, right? So I actually have a bigger range now than I did when I was in my 30s, because I found a really good teacher. And then I learned how to sing. And I learned how to maintain what I have. So I run through my entire range every single day. So I don't lose it. So at 70, I can still sing. And I can still see myself singing at 80 like Bobby Rush did. I saw him at 86. And he's still performing now.
I saw him 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And the dancing.
Yeah. And the dancing. And Jimmy Johnson was doing that thing where you jump and, 90 years old.
Yeah.
My favorite moment in that concert was when he was finished with the set, and the audience, it's Blues Fest in Chicago. The audience is going nuts.
I was there. I played there this year.
Oh,
I'm
did
from
you?
Chicago, yeah.
Yeah, this was, Jimmy Johnson's dead.
Yeah,
but
well,
it was the last time he played there.
I played there this last summer.
Yeah, it was really cool. So at
was
the
there for
end,
the
the
whole
audience
week,
is
yeah.
going nuts, and they're like,
So who are you
more,
playing
more,
with?
more.
I played with one of the side stages right as you came into the festival from the west side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I played. I got to play with Magic Slim 1 year, but this last year I got to play with Milwaukee Slim, the singer, and I got to play with. I played with the House of Blues crew that were from there. That do all the behind the scenes. They fill in for all the other guys that don't quite make it to the stage when
Yeah.
they're supposed to. So
Yeah.
they're the all stars, basically. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, we had gigs that weekend, so we did.
It's not what it used to be. It used to be
Yeah.
a lot more of the dirty blues, and
Yeah.
now it's all shined up like a shined up nickel.
Yeah, I know that. I live
And
there. Yeah.
that's unfortunate, but that's what it is.
Yes. I thought I was in Illinois, but it turns out I live in Texas for some reason.
Well, mine says that I'm from Tulsa.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that town, man. I had a great time there last year.
So voice lessons teach you how to sing, but they teach you how to warm up and how to maintain your voice. So if you look at Barbra Streisand, she had a brilliant instrument, never took voice lessons, famously never took voice lessons, and then she stopped singing for a whole decade. And she didn't know how to maintain her voice, and she didn't know what she was
How
doing.
old was she when she did Star Is Born? When she did that? Didn't she redid that
She
one?
did A Star Is Born, but the first thing she did was Funny Girl, and she
Funny
was
Girl,
like
that's what it
18
was.
or 19.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, she was like a teenager when she did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a famous story about it. She came in chewing gum and stuck it under the chair, and then afterwards they found out she just mimed the whole thing. She wasn't chewing gum at all. She just did it for the chair.
Oh,
great.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is.
yeah. So, So, not knowing what you're doing, it's fine if you sing every single day and you keep doing it, then you're not going to lose that. But if you take a break, she never got her voice back. She doesn't sound anywhere.
She never sounded the same after that. You're right.
No, she never sounded the same after that. So when you take voice lessons, you sing scales and arpeggios. Why do you do that? Because songs are made out of scales and arpeggios, right? I mean, the easiest version to think of is joy to the world, the Lord is come. Do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. It's a scale down. If you study scales, when you get to that in the song, I remember when I was playing the harmonica and I was playing crazy. And I practiced triads, right? The triads are just 3 notes that make a chord, right? So here's C. So, right? So I would do that on the harmonica. Right? And if you do that down, crazy for trying and crazy for crying. When I got to that part, I could already play it.
Yeah.
Right? It just makes your life so much easier. It's like you learn the building blocks of everything you're going to have to do. And scales and arpeggios are harder than the song.
We babble before we speak. We learn diphthongs before
Yeah.
we talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when, if you learn the building blocks, when you actually get to the song, it's a lot easier. You don't have to work all that stuff out. You already know how to do it. Right? And I'm sure you've played songs where you get to a section where like, I've played something like this before. So it's
Right,
easy.
especially blues.
Yeah, especially blues, because there's a lot of repetition in blues. So if you practice scales and arpeggios, you can play songs, you can sing songs. It just makes it a lot easier. Okay. All right, here's my favorite part of the class. And it's about acoustic chamber and the harmonic series. I'm going to calm down for a second. Now, acoustic chamber. When I get a new student, the first thing I ask them is if they know the difference between an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar. You're all musicians, you know the difference. An electric guitar has a solid body. If you play it, you don't have it plugged in, you don't hear much of anything, right? An acoustic guitar, just like this ukulele, has an acoustic chamber, right? And the acoustic chamber, for an instrument like this, a string instrument, is everything, right? You change the wood, you change the size, shape, position of this hole, right? You change anything about this, and it changes the sound, right? Now, and you've seen harmonica players who have, like, they're using a tight cup and they move one finger, and it changes the tone.
Everything,
So those tone changes, changing that acoustic chamber can be very, very subtle. And so it's hard to get it to the point where you can refine it to make sure that it's exactly what you want. But the other thing the acoustic chamber does, I mean the main thing the acoustic chamber does, it makes the ukulele loud enough to hear because it reinforces the frequencies that these strings make, right? So here's why. This is the coolest part of the class. So this is totally geeky, and I hope you're into it too.
Oh,
All right.
why are we here?
There's a whole thing called the harmonic series, right? Anybody here ever play a brass instrument?
Yeah.
Okay.
Saxophone.
Okay. So if you know,
Trumpet.
trumpet counts. Saxophone doesn't count.
That's
It's
true.
a reed
You're
instrument.
right. Yeah.
Okay, not a reed instrument.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're right.
Okay, because you can change notes without touching the keys on a saxophone, but it's a different process.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah.
So on a brass instrument, you have the harmonic series outlined for you. If it's a trombone, I play the trombone. It's B flat, F, B
Trumpet,
flat,
trombone.
and then you're a third above, and then you're an octave, and then you're a third and a fifth. I mean, you got the root, the fifth, the octave. Then you got the third, the fifth, and the octave. And above that, you actually have a diatonic scale. This is why Western music is structured the way it is, because of the harmonic series, right? So when you're playing a C, right, middle C, you have a C harmonica?
Yeah.
Pull it out. All right, that's middle C, right? So the cool thing about the harmonic series is, let's go over that again. So the harmonic series is, you play a note, let's play it an octave down here, all right? When you play that note, so don't play anything yet, right? You play that C, that C is included in that note. It's already there.
It's an overtone.
And the fifth above that, and then the octave, right? And then the third, right? All of that is included in that note. If you play more than one note, those harmonics overlap,
Right.
and they reinforce each other. So take the first 3 holes and draw. Okay, now middle C is the lowest note you have on this. But if you play that, listen, you also hear this G. Hear it down there? Play it. Everybody play it at the same time. It's easier if everybody does it at the same time. Go. Yeah, someone's not playing a C or they're not inhaling.
Oh, inhale.
Inhale.
Yeah.
Inhale. Here, you can do that. That note. That's not a read on the harp. But if you had the right equipment in here, that would show up. We are actually generating that note. This is why barbershop quartets, you get 4 guys, they hit that last chord, and it sounds like it breaks down the house.
Supernova, yeah.
Yeah, and that's because they're singing a chord structured in such a way that that harmonics, I got goosebumps just talking about this because I think it's so cool. That those harmonics overlap in a way that creates basically an entire chorale with that one chord, right? And use that all the time, difference tones on the harmonica, right? You play 2 notes, it creates a 3rd note. It makes its own chord because those harmonics overlap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
it's really cool. So, what does this have to do with singing? You want to create an acoustic chamber that is as efficient and good as something on an instrument, right? And we talked about how you remove 1 finger, that makes a difference. So tiny little changes in this acoustic chamber. Your acoustic chamber as a vocalist is your mouth, your sinuses, your throat, and even your lungs, if you're open enough, right? So what you want to do is you want to create an acoustic chamber that's large enough to have that resonance, to get the amplified sound, but with enough forward focus right in through your sinuses, so you've got projection, right? And that's why I growl sometimes when I'm singing for effect. I don't do it very often because it's hard on your voice for one thing. And it blunts the sound. It won't project as far. A bright, clear tone projects farther. So if you want to cut through the band and you start growling, you're screwing yourself because you're blunting the tone. You can't project as far, right? And that growling didn't really become very popular until they started amplifying music, and you could cut through without it. Or you could do those tweaks where you could tweak, you could use an equalizer and change the tone to give it more thrust. Every karaoke microphone in the world does that. Huge reverb, and then that almost
tinny.
Yeah, that tinny kind of that's. But you could do that without that, and it sounds a lot better if you do it acoustically with your voice. So we're going to learn how to create that acoustic chamber that's efficient and keep that projection so you can project. The first time I went to the Lyric Opera, and I haven't seen a lot of operas, but the first time I ever went, I was living in Chicago, so I was an adult, and I've been studying for a long time. And my voice teacher's been saying, there are opera roles you can do, and I kept thinking, no. And I went to see an opera, I was like, oh, there were opera roles I could do. But the thing that struck me the most was, I got the cheapest seats in the house, right? I was in the very last row. And I don't know if you've ever been in the Lyric Theater, but it's huge. I sat down and thought, as a performer with my background, my nightmare would be to walk out on stage that far away and know that I have to project to this guy all the way in the back of the house. In an opera, they use 0 microphones, right? None of that stuff is amplified. They don't even have stage mics on the floor.
Really?
Yeah.
I know that.
Even now?
Even now.
Likewise, the pit orchestra.
Yeah.
That makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah.
I know that.
But the orchestrations are designed to help the vocalists do that. I mean, it's all designed, and hundreds of years of work into that, right? So over time, they're very effective, right? But an opera singer can do that, and they don't have to be fortissimo, right? They don't have to be singing as loud as they can. They can sing mezzo, they can sing piano, and still make it carry all the way to the back of the house. That's technique. That's a really expert knowledge of how to form this acoustic chamber and how to project. And that's another thing voice lessons gives you that you're not going to get on your own. Let's face it, you could get a harmonica and you could go off by yourself and listen to some records and learn how to play. A lot of people do that. But you're never going to learn as fast as if you have a guide, someone that's going to say, this is what you're doing. And you'll run into walls and create your own obstructions that they can help you navigate around. And they can help you do that. So taking voice lessons is really, if you're serious about being a vocalist, and as I said, a lot of people got famous and then found out that they needed voice lessons. Adele, I've heard, is taking voice lessons now.
Really?
But there's all sorts of examples. You listen to Weird Al Yankovic, he's got amazing
I
technique.
just saw him in Chicago.
Yeah, he's got amazing vocal technique now, not on my Bologna, right? He
No.
got famous and realized, I can't tour. My cousin is the front man for Vertical Horizon. They did a song called Everything You Want that was all over the radio years ago, and they're still touring. After he got famous, his mom called me. My son needs voice lessons. Because he was on tour and found out you can't do it. You
Or
can't
couldn't
do it.
finish the tour without, a lot
Is
of
it
times.
physiological or what?
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
Just the endurance,
Huh.
doing it right, not
Yeah.
ruining your voice.
Well,
I heard that.
yeah, and there are jobs where you need to work out or you can't do that job, right? If you're a baseball player and you never go into the gym,
Yeah.
you're not going to be a very good
There's
baseball
there's a lot of rock singers that start on tour that they can't finish the tour because
They
they burn out their voice
Yeah.
before they can get to the
Yeah,
last gig.
that's what was happening with my cousin, John Mayer. Took voice lessons after he got famous. It's
Yeah, the
really
singer,
obvious if you listen.
singer of Def Leppard.
Yeah,
Joe Elliott, yeah, actually, I know Joe Elliott, which is, and you're right. But I was up to play with Guns N' Roses a couple weeks ago, and unfortunately, I got into a disagreement with Axl Rose. But
Who doesn't?
Yeah, believe you me, and there's a good reason for that. But he couldn't finish. There's a lot of tours he couldn't finish because he burned out. He'd always hit those high.
What?
He didn't
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't use his
We've
voice.
only got about 50 minutes
I'm
left,
sorry.
so I just want to go back to the
We'll
class
talk
with you
later.
guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like my band rehearsal. It's like we're not talking about guitars now, we're going to rehearse.
Yes.
Guitars are great, we're going to rehearse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. So I talked a little about strength and power, right? The stronger you are, the better you can sing. Let's see where I am. Oh. So, some of you sing and play now, right?
Yeah.
And have you ever had a situation where you've been playing a harmonica solo, right, in the middle of a song, and you're like, I am rocking this solo. This is great. I am kicking ass, right? And then you get to the part where you have to sing and you're like,
Yes, I am.
I don't remember anything. Here's why that happens. Years ago, decades ago, I was watching a show called No on PBS. They had a neurologist on there, and they asked her, they showed her a picture of her brain, and they said, can you tell anything about this person just from looking at this picture of the brain? And she says, yeah, whoever had that brain played the violin.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Heavy.
like, my jaw dropped, right? They're like, how do you know? And she points to the brain, right back here, there's a circular note. And it was Albert Einstein's brain, he did play the violin. He had a circular note right here. Every violinist develops this circular note right here in the back of their brain, right? She said if you play the piano, you get it in a different spot, right? So different parts of your brain do different
Wow.
things. The part of your brain that talks is not the part of your brain that sings. The part of your brain that plays the harmonica is not the part of your brain that sings. So while you're playing a harmonica and really focused on that, the part of your brain that sings has gone out for coffee and cigarettes is not paying any attention to anything, right? So, and it's like you said, all of a sudden, go to the part of your brain that sings. And
Yeah.
your part of your brain that sings goes, what?
Oh, wow.
That's why you have to practice going back and forth.
Yeah.
You have to practice that solo going into the vocals. So you make sure that when you get to the end of that solo, that part of your brain activates so you can do that, right? So that's just a little side thing that you have to check. You have to make sure that you can go back and forth. You have to
That makes
practice
sense.
that. Hold on. Words. Oh, no, lines. Go to lines. Stupid thing. I don't know why. All right, let me reboot the voiceover thing. Voiceover off. Voiceover on. It should work now. Lines. There we go. All right. Oh yeah. Harmonic series. Different parts of your brain. Okay. All right. Let me see. Yeah. So we've got about 11 minutes left. So this is the part where we actually sing. Okay. So we're going to talk about the acoustic chamber as it affects yourself and your mouth. Right. So you want grab your C harp. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to draw on those 3 notes. The first 3 holes. Holes 1, 2, and 3. We're just going to do a drop. But this time, we're going to start like this. We're going to start with an E. We're going to say E-ah. Maybe some of you have done this, right? And there's a lot of patterns where you're right? And if you want a bigger sound on the harmonica, what do?
Open up.
Can you open wide?
You open wide,
Yeah.
right? And that gives you a bigger sound. And if you don't put the harmonica in your mouth, if you put the harmonica in your mouth, if you find an acoustic chamber that enhances those frequencies and get a suddenly bigger sound.
Right.
Right? So you already have an advantage over a lot of instrumentals because you understand that with the harmonica. Now it's a different part of your brain, so you have to get that other part of your brain to accept this and
Okay.
put it into practice. But it's the same thing, that when you do that. So everybody bring up and do that ee-ah, like that. And feel what happens when you go into the ah, right? The inside of your mouth gets really big. If you do it to an extreme, the soft palate in the back will raise up like you're yawning. So do that. You want that soft palate. Not with the harmonica. Now we're going into C. So we don't really use the harmonica too much, right? So you want to say the basic building block of this acoustic chamber is saying the word ma. But you want to say it with this yawn. So just listen to me. Ma. Ma. Right? I've been doing this for decades. You're not going to get there right now. Okay? So it also sounds like I'm louder than I'm actually pushing. Right?
Really?
So this is not about pushing a lot of air through. Pushing a lot of air out, mom, and trying to yell is like putting more air through the harmonica. What does that do? It breaks reeds.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't help you at all.
Sounds like crap.
It doesn't give you a bigger sound. You sound worse, and it breaks reeds. There's no upside to it. Right? So we're going to think of 80% as 100%. And when you're on stage, you think of 80% as 100%. Right? That way you can last longer. And if you're right at the end of your set and you need a little bit bigger of that one big finale for the big song, you've got some place to go.
Right, you got reserve, yeah.
You've got some reserve. Yeah. So we're going to think of 80% in this class as 100%. So do that, yawn, and then say when you're ready, 1, 2, 3, ma. And you go, ma. Say it again. Ma. Yeah, that's really good. But most of you want to get more of a yawn in there, right? You want to get the biggest, but like what that guy just did, right? So, ma. Say it again. Ma. Yeah. So when we sing, that's what we're going to do. The other part of this is that M sound gets the sound forward. When you do the you can feel, if you're doing it right, you can feel the vibration right into your sinuses, right? Right at the top of your nose and into your sinuses. Ma. And that's what gives you that projection.
It's a good vocal one.
Really?
Yeah. So when I start out vocalizing, a lot of times I will start out with that sound. All right. Let's talk about physically what you do when you sing, because we don't have that much time left. Everybody stand up. Okay? Now, singing, as I said, is physical. So you want to keep your feet about shoulder width so you have a good stance. You want to keep your weight, you want to feel grounded, right? I tell people to center themselves, if you know what that means, if you study martial arts or yoga or anything like that. And you take a breath, you center yourself, you feel gravity pulling you down, right? So you want your knees soft, you don't want them locked back. And when you take a breath, you want to breathe from your diaphragm. This is really important. Your diaphragm, if you don't know, is a muscle that attaches right below your sternum and attaches to the bottom rib. Sternum is the bone in the center of your chest. So it attaches right here and it comes down. It's kind of shaped like an umbrella. It has a tendon in the middle that pulls it down, and when it pulls that down, it expands your lungs and air comes into your lungs, right? So that's basic singing, right? An opera singer does what's called back breathing. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to have you put your hands on my back. And the reason I'm picking you is because you're female, and the last time I had a guy, he grabbed my ass, okay? And
I witnessed it too.
Oh, did you?
I witnessed it.
Yeah. So, and what did I say?
I'll try not
What did I say? I'm gay, and you don't know how dangerous that
Yes,
is, right?
you do.
Okay, yeah. So, all right. So, everybody get to the point where they can see. What's your name?
Louise.
Louise, hands. All right. Now, when I take a breath, I'm breathing all the way down. See that? See how her hands go out?
Yeah.
Feel that?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I take a breath, I'm breathing all the way down there. And what that does is, it engages all these muscles around my ribs, right? The intercostals between my ribs, the obliques around my ribs. It engages all these muscles. When I hit a high note, I bend my knees more and I tuck my butt. People don't really notice that so much. They just think you're getting into the song. If you look at Huey Lewis, the video of Huey Lewis doing Power of Love, right? He does this. Do that. What happens? All these muscles around here tighten up. You pull that
That's
in
why he
hard.
bounces out that high note, right?
Yeah. It's the power of love.
Yeah.
That's what he does. Every time he hits a high note, he's engaging more muscles. The more of these muscles you can engage, the higher you can sing, and the more you can sustain easily. right? That's why it's worked. That's why my voice teacher said, after I've been studying with my voice teacher for 2 months, he said, "You're not strong enough to do this technique." And I thought, it's singing, right? Oh, come on, give me a break. And that week, I was vocalizing and I had to stop because I got tired. And I thought, wow, you're right.
You started working out.
Yeah, and I started working out and it made a huge difference. He's a bodybuilder. I mean, and he started that back when bodybuilding was looked upon as like freakish, if you're old enough to remember that.
That was in the 70s.
Yeah, in the 70s. And opera singers were like, no, you're going to strain your voice lifting weights.
Yeah.
No, that didn't happen with him at all. But he had he had the biggest voice I've ever heard in my life. Seriously, he has serious basso profundo voice, right? So those are the muscles you want to do. So you want to make sure that your knees are bent and that when you take a breath, you take it as quickly as possible by opening your nose and your mouth and not just breathing through your nose, right? So I can go, and in that amount of time, I can get a full breath bear, right? I can fill my lungs to capacity that fast. Singing, you are never going to get to the end of a phrase and think, oh my God, I have too much air left in my lungs. Yeah, especially if you're singing like Mozart, right? Like, that's not even a thing. These long phrases, and you just, so sometimes if you're playing the blues, you got to dump air. But the cool thing about the blues is, almost all the blues is inhale, right?
Yeah.
And unless you're Bobby McFerrin or me, you're not singing on an inhalation. You're always exhaling when you sing. So it works out really well, So,
Especially in harp playing.
yeah. So when you take a breath, you want to take it quickly, but you want to engage as much of this as possible. Getting this back breathing thing to happen, it takes a while. But for now, put your finger on your diaphragm, right below your sternum. And when you take a breath, you can feel that, right? Your stomach should come out a little bit, and you can feel that engage, right? You can feel that muscles engage. And when you're singing, when you're sustaining, put your finger there and see if you don't feel tension there, if you don't feel that support there, then you're not supporting properly, and you can't sing as well, right? Okay, so let's do a couple of exercises before we get to the end of the class. So, say that mom again. So, mom. Don't forget to yawn, because that's the first thing that goes. Okay. Mom. Let's hear it. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So we're going to start on this middle C. Actually, we're going to start on this low C, because we only got one woman in the class, right, Louise?
True.
Yeah. All right. So you're going to be an octave up, and we're going to do mom, 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 mom. We're just going to do a simple triad on those three notes. And how it's going to work is, I'm going to sing it. I'm going to play a chord. You're going to sing it. And we're going to do call and response, and you try to match what I'm doing. You're not going to sound like me. If you do this right, you will sound like you on your best day. Right?
Cool.
Okay. So the goal is not to sound like somebody else, but you want to hear that acoustic chamber, and you want to match that acoustic chamber, and it will be your version of it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
Yeah. Mum. I'll do it once so you can hear the response. So you can hear what it sounds like, right? So that's an important part of it. So listening is just as important as singing, as it is with any musician when you're on stage, right?
Right.
We've all worked with that guitar player who's like in their own little bubble. You can change the tempo, you can change the dynamics, you can change anything you want, but they're not going to do anything but do what they do, right? So here we go. Mum, 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 mum. Not too loud.
Mum, 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 mum.
Yeah, you want to get a little more forward. Mum, 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 mum. Now you.
Mum, 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 mum,
Oh,
mum.
much better. Mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
Yeah. Drop your jaw a little more. Mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
Yeah. Mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
All right, now we're getting up into people's higher range, right?
Yeah.
So when we do this, if you have to drop out, I want to know about it. Has anybody had to drop out yet?
No.
No, I didn't think so, because we're not that high yet. Also, I do not play the piano, so I make a lot of mistakes. Right. Mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
Yeah. Mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
Yeah, and as we get higher, you have to think of this like a pyramid. So the higher you get, the smaller it gets and the more focused it gets. If you try to bring all that weight up with you, you'll fail. And everybody's heard that alto who belts, And at the end of a 3-minute song, they're going flat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can't control that, and they wonder why. It's because
It's smaller and concise.
they're bringing so much weight up with them, and they're trying to make that sound so big that they shaft themselves. They get fatigued, and there's no way that they can sing into.
Your
Because they're-
open jaw stays the same?
Yeah,
Okay.
that jaw stays the same. It's just
Switch,
more support as you get higher, but
Yeah.
less sound and more focus. Mum, 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 mum. And
Mum, 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 mum.
everybody make that?
Yeah.
Mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
Everybody make that, or anybody have to drop out? Oh, all right. Now we're high enough so that I'm gonna flip over into my head voice. Mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
Nice. Mum, 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum.
Anybody drop out?
I went into high voice.
All right.
Yeah.
Who dropped out?
Me?
All right, come up here. You're my guinea pig now. All right. So, this is the trust part of the exercise.
Okay.
Bass beat. Now you're going to bend your knees and you're going to lean back. More. Yeah. Now sing. Mum 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 mum.
Mum, 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 mum,
How
mum.
about that?
It's support.
That's right. That's awesome.
If you support properly, you can sing higher. Right?
All right.
Right into your head voice. Did it sound bad when you did
Yeah,
that?
that's
It
good.
sounded great.
I was surprised when it was.
Yeah, that's voice lessons.
Yay!
So that's yeah. So I think we're out of time. Hold on. I can't get.
2:31.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. So yeah. That's the end of the class. But that's a really good. That's a really good way. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! I'm so glad you talked. Shut up.
I had a lot of trouble with my phone too.
Standing ovation.
All right.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you. We've still got another day, so if you have any questions, you want to catch me in the hall, do not hesitate. You say I was in the class and I had this question or whatever. You just want to ask me anything at all, okay? But those are the basics. If you remember that, if you remember supporting, using your diaphragm, eventually you can get to the point where you're supporting more, and it gives you a better range. But you see how even in just a few seconds, a couple of minutes of vocalizing, that guy. What's your name?
Laurie.
Laurie.
Yeah.
Laurie got higher range, right? He's got a higher practical range than he realizes because technique. It's all about technique. Just like on the harmonica, the more technique you have, the more cool things you can do, and the more technique you have, the more fun you can have.
More fun you can have.
Yeah, and they always say, play what you feel. If you can't play, you can't play what you feel. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys did great. This was a great class.
Thanks a lot, Rich. That was
Yeah.
great.